Hi there, my name's Elena. I'm halfway through a nursing program to get my associate's degree in nursing, and then I'll be eligible to sit for the NCLEX exam to get my registered nursing license. I just wanted to get on here and make this video because when I decided to pursue the nursing career path, I remember just going about it very blind. I didn't have anyone in person that could give me any guidance as far as nursing, getting into programs, school, the career in general. And I just remember that one thing that was so helpful to me during that time period was actually coming on YouTube and watching these videos of people that were giving their advice from their real life experiences. And just, what to think about before you go into something so serious like this, and that takes so much time and so much effort. So I feel like that really helped me, and now that I'm halfway through my program, I have my own experiences that may be a little bit different that could hopefully help somebody else that may be going through something similar to me. So if I can help somebody, that would be the goal. But yeah. Okay, so first I'll give some background information just about the nursing field generally, like as a whole, in case you don't know, and you might not. So basically there's different avenues that you can go down, different pathways in the field of nursing that you can go into right away. So the first one, and again, this is going to be, educational programs and licensure and things like that are going to vary from state to state. So go ahead and look at those terms from your own state and your own location. But speaking generally, the first would be a CNA, which is a certified nurse's assistant. So you would actually be directly assisting the nurses. And this is relatively, very short program, pretty cheap program, goes by quick, and you can actually get on the field and start getting experience working with nurses and seeing, how things work in a short period of time. And you can also make an income while you may be working on prerequisite courses in order to get into a nursing program. And then second, you can become an LPN or an LVN, depending on your state, which is a nurse. It's a licensed practical or licensed vocational nurse, which is great. It can get you on the floor working in a shorter amount of time than an RN program, and usually more inexpensive as well. You'll be able to start working as a nurse sooner. But one thing to keep in mind is that LPNs and LVNs, they are technically under the delegation of the RN, the registered nurse. So there are certain things that are out of the scope of practice of an LPN. And those things kind of include like assessing a patient, planning their care or their interventions for their nursing care, pushing IV medications, for example. In my state, they can't do that. So a lot of things that go into nursing, you're unable to do, and you kind of have to refer to the registered nurse to do that. And then also, you can't actually see any patients that are considered unstable. So you can only care for patients that are stable. So it seems limiting. I haven't became an LPN or had an experience being an LPN, but a lot of people in my program are LPNs. They had gotten that first and they went straight away into the RN program. So I'm just kind of going off of what they've told me. This is my dog, Lila. You may see her whenever she pleases, because no matter what I do, this girl runs the house. Yeah, okay. So there's two different types of programs that you can apply to become a registered nurse. The first one is an associate's degree of nursing, so it's typically around a 2-year program. And then the second one is a bachelor's degree of nursing, and that typically is around 4 years. And both of them, you sit for the same test, which is called the NCLEX, and that's the test you have to pass to get your RN license. So, little things to keep in mind, because I'm sure you're hearing 2 years versus 4, like, duh. But something to keep in mind is that ADN programs, a lot of times, they require a lot of prerequisite courses to even apply to the program. So you're gonna spend a year, if not 2 years, just completing prereq classes, which is the anatomy and biology sequence, math, like science, different writing, communications, psychology, all of those classes. And that takes a while, and it's, it's not free. So you have to kind of factor that in when you think about it. Yeah, it may take me 2 years to complete this, and then I enter into a 2-year program. It's basically 4 years, so. And then with the bachelor's program, something to keep in mind, you may think, oh, why go to a 4-year program if I can get the same license in 2 years, and it's probably less expensive and less of my time. Something that's pretty important to keep in mind is that a lot of hospitals today are requiring at least a bachelor's degree to get a job. This is because hospitals want to maintain something called magnet status, which is basically a credential of excellent nursing care that hospitals can apply for and maintain. And then ultimately it makes them more money with funding. So they have been doing this more and more lately, and probably more so in the future, that they will require you to have a bachelor's degree in order to get a job at a hospital. That's kind of the path that you see yourself going down. I would just go ahead and get the bachelor's degree and not waste time, because my goal, the point of getting the ADN first, was so that I could get my RN quicker. I can get on the field, private practice somewhere, surgery center. Basically, I could be working already as an RN for income and, to support myself while I get my bachelor's degree online using like a bridge program of some sort. So there's different reasons of why people choose different paths, but ultimately, if you want to work in a hospital, bachelor's degree is usually necessary. Check that out in your area though, because it always, can be different. People like me who I've never had that goal or aspiration, maybe I will one day, but I'm used to working in private practice settings, so I would rather, not work in a hospital if I could. So that wouldn't be my first choice anyways. So I will be able to get a job somewhere at a private practice or surgery center or something like that, where I could be an RN and be working while getting my bachelor's online. Okay, so finally the advice portion of this video. From my advice, from my personal experience, the number one thing I would tell somebody would be get your CNA first and get some experience working in the field before committing to the decision of pursuing a path or career in nursing. Nursing programs are so extremely hard to get into. They require so much time, money, effort. In order to get in is very hard to do. And then once you are into a nursing program, again, extreme amount of time, stress, pressure, energy, money goes into it. And then imagine doing all that and then finding out once you get a job that this just isn't for you. You know what I mean? So the safest and the best thing that you can do is go to a CNA program. It takes 6 weeks to get your CNA license. I did it in my state. It took me 6 weeks. I thought the program in total was like $1,000 compared to a nursing program. It's very minimal, and from that CNA, I was able to get on the field and start working side by side with nurses. I was directly assisting nurses, RNs, and I can say one of the best things that came from that was being able to watch them and say, hey, this is something that I can do and I know I would enjoy doing. That security of knowing that is worth everything, trust me, before going into this. And then B, meeting all of these amazing RNs and nurses who are practicing and assisting them and working so closely with them, I was able to learn so much, and they gave me so much guidance on how to get into a nursing program, the steps I should be taking, just general advice and guidance. And that is that in-person advice and help that I was missing from the beginning of this journey, where I was saying that I was kind of just figuring it out on my own. Becoming a CNA really gave me a direct contact and link to real nurses practicing that can give you really beneficial advice. And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for the RNs that I met while I was working as a CNA, I would not be here where I am today. So number one advice, it's so easy to get your CNA. Just go out there, do it. Go start getting some experience and just get your eyes on the field. And also, you can work as a CNA while you're doing your prereqs for the RN program, or for an LPN. I don't know if they have prereqs, but for the RN program, that's what I did. I was working for over a year as a CNA before I applied to nursing programs. So yeah, it was just extremely beneficial. I wasn't just sitting at home doing my prereqs, spending money, taking out loans. I was working, during the day, and then every weekend it was nursing stuff. For me, a good example of just an anecdotal, experience that I had was coming out of high school. I really wanted to work in the dentistry field. I was very interested in it. I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, and I was like, love dentistry, Makes sense. I love my dentist growing up, that's probably why. But I thought, right away, let's look at the options here. I should probably go towards being a dental hygienist. So dental hygiene is very similar to nursing. It's many courses of prereqs and then about a 2-year program. So had I done that, I would have, well, let me rewind here. What I did instead of going straight for dental hygiene and applying to programs was I became a dental assistant. I became a registered dental assistant. It was, I think, a year program. Again, probably like $1,000. And I just started working in general dentistry right away. And I just remember being like, oh wow, no, I hate this. Like, I hate this. I was looking at the hygienist, just like, you do the same thing over and over and over again all day, and that's it. Like, there is no variation in your day ever. You do the same thing all day for 8 hours. I was like, no. I mean, they make, decent money, and that's kind of what I was going for. How can I use the skills that I have in order to make myself as much money as I can? And I was like, hey, like I could be good at this, but becoming a dental assistant first, which is way less money, way less time, getting experience, the value of knowing that like dental hygiene is not what I wanted to do is invaluable. It was worth more than any time I spent getting that dental assisting. What I ended up doing was switching out of general dentistry and just becoming an assistant in different specialties. I ended up going to oral surgery, assisting as a surgical assistant. It was, great. Like, I loved that. I loved the diversity. Every day was different. Every patient was different. We would have patients that were conscious sedation. We would have patients full on IV general anesthesia. So it was very like more my speed, but it would never make as much money as a provider would, say like a hygienist or a nurse. That in a long runaround bout is why I would definitely tell you, just go ahead and get the CNA. It's quick, it's easy, and it's inexpensive relatively. If you can afford it, save up, work for it, or take out a loan. Just make sure that before pursuing the nursing path that this is actually for sure going to be something you want to do. Because I've heard just stories from people in my program that have been kind of in different programs like LPN programs and things, that there were girls that, or guys and girls, I'm sure, that tried really hard and put in all this effort just to get into the program. And I remember one story was the girl didn't like washing, how much she had to wash her hands, and then decided nursing wasn't for her. Can you imagine doing everything that it takes to get into a nursing program and then finding out that your hands are too dry so you can't do it? Like, girl, just get your CNA, see if you can do it, see if it's for you, and then go ahead and take all the benefits, like all of the connections, the income, everything, do your prereqs, and then apply. Number 2, second piece of advice that I'd wish, someone had told me a little bit sooner in my journey is that if you don't consider yourself a good student, you can still be a great nurse. So, myself coming out of high school, I struggled in high school quite a lot. And that's because I wasn't good at memorizing information and just like spitting it back out onto a piece of paper after reading it. I'm a very like visual and kinetic learner. So I like to do things with my hands, or at least understand the processes behind things of why you're doing the things you're doing for me to retain information. Because I am such a visual and kinetic learner, out of high school, I kind of took up the route of going towards vocational programs to learn a skill and just start working as soon as possible, honestly, because I never saw myself just getting, like a bachelor's degree or going straight to a college. That was just never in the cards for me. Also, it was not something that was really like taught to me either. So yeah, it was just, I never thought that I could do something like get into a nursing program or be successful in a nursing program, which I am. I'm getting really good grades and everything's going really well. And I wanted to explain that the difference with this is that you can be a good nurse and succeed in nursing programs without being a good student, because nursing school, it focuses on critical thinking, your technical skills, and then conceptual knowledge, like the reasons why things happen the way they happen and why we do the things we do. It really focuses on the bigger concepts of things, which really helps people like me retain information. Also, because it's a mixture of lecture and lab, so you do have, a lot of reading, you have a lot of like listening to someone speak, taking down notes. That is a big portion of it. But it's also mixed with a lab portion. So that means you hear it and you learn it, which typically for me would go whoop and out the other ear. But then you get to go into the lab and practice the skill on a patient, which is like a mannequin usually. But that really makes the information concrete in my mind when I get to do it with my hands afterwards. And then actually reading everything and hearing everything in the lecture becomes so beneficial because it kind of all ties together in a way that it never really did for me before. So I just want to put that out there, that if you don't think of yourself as a good student, you can still be a great nurse. And something that backs this up even more is that the fact that they're changing the NCLEX exam completely. They're calling it the next generation NCLEX if you want to look it up. But basically, they're changing the way that the test that you have to take to become an RN is, to focus more on clinical situations and critical thinking. Because what had happened was, we were in such a shortage during COVID of nurses that pushed through programs or accepted, or I don't know, kind of were good test takers. They were able to pass the test in order to pass nursing school, and then they were able to pass the NCLEX, like they were good at passing tests, but then they got out on the floor and overwhelmingly didn't know what to do in situations. So they've recently changed. I think I'm going to be one of the first cohorts to take the next generation NCLEX, if I'm understanding it correctly, but it focuses more on giving you kind of like a long paragraph of the whole situation and then like 8 questions about what's this mean? What priority action are you taking? What intervention would you plan for this? Like, what does this vital mean? Like making you think as if you were in the real situation rather than like select all that apply, that's passing a test. So just know that yes, you can succeed in the program, so do try very hard, because I know some people like me who were never great students, we do have to try a little extra, but you do have to try really hard to get into the program. But just know that once you're in the program, you will be able to succeed. And when you get out in the field, like during your clinical rotations and things, like everything just makes sense. It's good, it's great. So just, hold in there, try your best, and do whatever is necessary if this is what's right for you, because you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it, trust. All right, and then number 3. So this is kind of specific, so if this doesn't apply to you, you can just like skip over this one. But if you're applying to a school that offers multiple programs, say like medical assisting, they offer an LPN program and they offer an RN program, do not be persuaded to enter into a program that is not the program that you want to enter into. So what happened with me is I'm currently going to a school that offers multiple programs, and I applied specifically for the RN program. I completed my whole application. I had every reference letter, I had my like resume, everything was to the nines. Like I really did that. But they came back and told me, like with your experience level, may not allow you to get in right away to the RN program. However, we can offer you the LPN program to become a licensed practical nurse in the meantime. So thankfully in my situation, like I was telling you before, the RNs that I worked for at the time, they had already told me about this situation that can happen, and like to be skeptical of it and to be prepared for it as well, because if I didn't know that, I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I just can't get into an RN program. Like that's just the way it is. So I'm gonna have to go into the LPN program. Basically what I was told and what I did, when they told me that my application was not gonna allow me to get into the RN, but I could get into the LPN, I politely said, no thank you. And please let me know what to do in the future to, spruce up my application, whatever I need to do, and I'll reapply at the next application date. So shortly they came back and let me know, okay, actually you can get into the RN program. And then they scheduled like my interviews, and in the interviews for the RN program, they're going to ask you the same questions, like what is it about an RN that will fulfill you in your career that an LPN wouldn't? So my recommendation is to really, really look into the scope of practice of LPNs versus RNs. Really nail in your head the differences between the two. What specific tasks that RNs can do that LPNs can't do you need in order to make your career happy or successful for you, like fulfilled for yourself? So for me, for example, I said that since LPNs can't push IV medications, one of the major things that I want to do because of my past experience working in oral surgery was caring for patients under anesthesia, IV anesthesia. I'm very knowledgeable about it. I prepared all of the IV anesthetics that the oral surgeon would push. I knew exactly what vitals to look for when that medication was pushed. I knew which one goes first before the other, which one counteracts the other, which one was raising the heart rate, which one was depressing the breathing. Like, I knew all of that from oral surgery. So that was a major interest of mine. So during my interview, I was able to say, hey, like, I need to get into an RN program. I won't accept the LPN because I want to be able to push IV meds. It doesn't have to be exactly that, like in detail. You do need to know something that makes the RN like the program that you need to get into rather than the LPN. Like, if you don't know the difference, they're just gonna be like, okay, you know, like, LPN you go, figure it out, and then we'll see you back for the RN when you reapply. And the reason that they do this is because they want to have you in, you know, their school for longer. They want to make the maximum amount of money off of you that they can, if you think about it, because these LPNs, they spent tens of thousands of dollars, you know, getting that degree just to go straight away into the RN program, which again is 2 years, so a lot of time, and then probably like double the money. So in the end of the day, getting both degrees, you're gonna triple the amount of money you spent and the time that you spent. So just really preparing for those things, like interviews, having the knowledge of like, what is the difference and what's important to me, just having that in your back pocket and like ready to go, will really increase your chances of them being like, oh dang, like she knows what she's talking about. We can't just like swindle her into going to a program she doesn't even want to go into. I really advise you to say politely, no thank you, if they do try to do that, and just let me know what I can do in order to make my application successful, and I will reapply. Okay, so this is my fourth and final piece of advice that I wish I knew going into this. When I was 2 years ago watching all of these YouTube videos, like you probably are now, something I remember hearing all the time was, don't do it for the money. Like, don't do it for the money. And I just remember being kind of like, huh? And not to offend anyone, I kind of like even went back and forth on even including this, but it just came off a little bit like privileged or counterintuitive. Like, we're all seeking careers and jobs so that we can pay our bills and pay our rent and like live, because nobody else is, you know, gonna do it for you. So you kind of have to, like, that's why we're all seeking jobs, is for the money, the income. So I'm not gonna say that. I am gonna say that it shouldn't be your main incentive though for nursing, because while you can make a good living and you can make a moderate like life for yourself, you're not going to be living like a rock star by any means. The number one thing that you really should be considering before the money is, do I want to help people? Like, do I feel fulfilled by providing care to people who need it? Because you're going to experience, you know, blood, bodily fluids, vomit, death, illness, you know, in general, people suffering, you're going to experience that. But it's okay, because you are helping them. Like, you're the one that they're looking to in a time they're probably the most vulnerable that they've ever been in their life. They're looking to you for help, you know, like that makes everything worth it. Like the, I guess, quote unquote gross things, I don't find any of it gross, but that makes it all, you know, 100% worth it, is because I'm able to help somebody who's in a state that really needs the help. And you should truly care about that. Like, you should want to do that, number one. And that is, you know, before the incentive of, yes, I want to live and I want to make a life for myself. And there's nothing wrong with feeling like that. I was able to have a job the whole time I was a dental assistant, but I could never make the level of like income for the amount of skills that I have, or that I feel like I could acquire if I was given an education. I wanted to be compensated, you know, more for that. than I was, and that's totally okay. You can go into a career looking for a payday, because that is what a career is for. It's for income so that you can live. So it's just like, you know, it's nothing to feel guilty about, but just know that you're gonna experience a lot of stress, a lot of morbidity, mortality. You're gonna experience people suffering who are looking at you for help, and that can be very stressful. So make sure that you truly care, that you have proper, you know, coping mechanisms for the stress that you're going to experience, and just know that you're going to work for the money that you do make. So I hope that helps. I hope that's not discouraging in any way. I just wanted to address that because I just remember feeling that way when I used to watch these videos. I was kind of just like, don't do it for the money. Like, I care about the income. I do. Like, I want to provide for myself, you know, and I've never had a lot of help in that, like, in that way. I just wanted to address that, just because it is okay to, you know, recognize the fact that nurses do make a pretty good life for themselves. They deserve it. They deserve every dollar. Like, just seeing the things I've seen already, just working in clinical rotations. But it's okay to, you know, want to better yourself and say that you're in a job in the healthcare field already, like I was. You know, it's okay to want more. And income allows you to do so much more with your life than you could with, say, like a dental assistant's salary. So yeah, it is like an important aspect of it that can make a pretty good income or compensation for your work as a nurse, but it does take a lot to get there, and it is a lot once you do get there. So the way that you kind of manage it and get through that, I think the most important thing is to truly care about the people that you're treating. Like, the point of your career is to help people. Okay, well, that's it for me. I hope that this was helpful and beneficial to your journey and your process, and I hope that everything that you're working so hard for becomes reality for you. But whatever you can think of, just comment it down below, and I will, you know, see if I can make a video or have anything good to say about it that can be helpful to you. And yeah, so good luck, and you can do it. Thanks. Bye.